I recently built a commander deck that surprised me in a lot of different ways. Now, the first way this commander deck surprised me was that it was very strong. It plays at around bracket 3, but it can probably compete at bracket 4 to be honest, though I haven't actually tried that yet. The second thing that surprised me was how resilient the deck is. I'll get into that a bit later on when I explain the engine that this deck sets up and uses to win the game. And the third thing that surprised me is not how cheap it was, which it is really cheap, it's $20 to $30, which is lower than most precons, but how flexible it is and the cards that you want to have in the deck. You can replace a lot of the cards if you don't want them in the deck and stuff like that, right? This deck doesn't really have a set deck list, although there are cards that are absolutely necessary, which I will go over in this video, as well as potential upgrades for the deck. Now, the commander for this deck is Never Stuck by Nightmares, as you probably saw by the thumbnail or title. I haven't named the video yet, so maybe just the thumbnail. And she's a 4-mana 2/2 legendary creature, Human Noble, with Menace. And this is her primary ability. Whenever Stuck by Nightmares enters the battlefield, you return target creature or enchantment card from your graveyard to your hand. Now, why is this good? Well, it isn't, but it is really good in combination with the card Astral Slide. Now, Astral Slide is a 3-mana enchantment that says, whenever a player cycles a card, you may remove target creature card from the game. If you do, return that creature to play under its owner's control at the end of turn. This basically just means that whenever you cycle a card, you exile your commander, and then at the beginning of your end step, you return it to the battlefield, or not at the beginning of your end step, but at the beginning of the end step. This includes your opponent's turns, which means that you can draw 4 cards from cycling every single turn rotation. From the same cycling card. Now, what is cycling? In case you don't know, cycling is an ability. I have an example here. Floating Fox is a 1-mana creature, which doesn't matter. Cycling is an ability on the card that says, when this card is in your hand, basically, you can pay 1 mana, or in some cases 2, some cases 3, but in this case 1 mana. You discard the card, and then you draw a card. So, let's just say, for example, I'm going to explain the loop here. You have the card that you want to cycle, Floating Fox. You discard Floating Fox, then you draw a card. Astral Slide triggers, targeting Never. Never then gets exiled. At the beginning of your end step then, Never returns to the battlefield, and when Never returns to the battlefield, Flourishing Fox returns to your hand. Now, you have drawn 1 card for 1 mana, and you have exiled your Never for the turn, right? So that's pretty much what this deck does. And I will make this deck a lot more scary, but first of all, I'm going to explain why this is so good and how it's so damn resilient. Now, first of all, you can exile Never in response to her getting targeted, which means that she's never gonna die to single time removal board wipes pretty much, unless you're running out of cycling cards or mana, for example, right? In that case, you can't exile because you don't have mana or cards to do it, right? But if someone casts a board wipe, you can say, okay, cool, in response, I'm gonna cycle my Flourishing Fox, exile my Never, and at the beginning of my end step, she returns, dodging the board wipe in its entirety, and getting the cycling card up to your hand again. This is pretty damn good, especially if you use target removal on her, because then the removal just fizzles, it does nothing. So very good interaction you can do there, and you can also, if someone then casts a second remove, but you can then cycle another card and do stuff like that. Of course, you can only return 1 card, so the more times someone tries to remove your Never, the more dangerous it's going to be, because you will lose more mana and you will lose more cycling cards. But if you get set up properly and get to the late game, you can do this pretty much with no fear of losing your Never ever. Now, the one weakness that your deck does have is that Astral Slide can't get removed. Now, Astral Slide is also pretty resilient in this deck specifically, because of course, if someone removes your Astral Slide, you can say, okay, in response, I'm cycling my Flourishing Fox, exiling Never, and then at the end step, after Astral Slide has entered the graveyard, you return Astral Slide to your hand with Never's ability. Now, in this case, you do lose a cycling card, and you don't have Astral Slide up on the battlefield for the next turn, which kinda sucks, but you can play Astral Slide again and get the engine up and running again. This is, however, only if they destroy your Astral Slide. If they do stuff like shuffle it into library, or if they exile it, for example, which is probably the bigger problem here, Astral Slide will just be gone. You can't really do anything about that. Now, this deck does run Astral Drift in the deck to kind of negate that weakness, which Astral Drift is, it's basically the exact same card. It doesn't really matter. It has cycling as well, but you're never gonna use the cycling ability, so just the same card. And yeah, that's pretty much the main weakness of the deck. If they exile your Astral Slide, you then find your Astral Drift, which then also gets exiled. In that case, you're not completely done, but it's gonna be hard to win from that point on unless you already have a board built up. So that's like the main weakness of the deck. If they continuously run enchantment removal that specifically exiles, which is pretty rare in Commander, but it can happen. So do be wary of that. Anyways, that's like pretty much the engine of the deck, but the rest of the deck makes it a lot more scary, and I kind of want to get into that, so let's just take a look at some of the scary cards in the deck that are pretty much mandatory to this deck list as well. So yeah, let's just get into that. And the first of these cards that I want to mention is Dying to Serve. Now, Dying to Serve is a 3-mana black enchantment that says, whenever you discard one or more cards, create a tapped 2/2 black zombie creature token. This ability triggers only once each turn. This basically means that with Dying to Serve out on the battlefield, if you cycle once on each player's turn, you will create 4 2/2 black zombie creature tokens, in addition to drawing 4 extra cards. So you can already see how this is designed to get out of hand. You have other cards that are pretty similar to the Cryptcaller Chariot. It's an artifact, does the same thing. Tomo the Desecrator does pretty much the same thing. It's a creature, but it doesn't trigger on discard, it triggers on when your creature leaves the graveyard. So whenever you like return your Flourishing Fox with Neva's ability instead of when you discard. So it's pretty similar but a bit different. On Wings of Gold is probably the best of these cards. It's a 4-mana white enchantment that says creatures you control that are zombies, and this is important, and or tokens get +1/+1 and have flying. And then whenever one or more cards leave your graveyard, you create a 1/1 white zombie creature token. Now, this card basically makes it so that like your other zombies that are 2/2s will become 4/4s, because they are both zombies and tokens. Whereas the zombies that you make with On Wings of Gold become 3/3s with flying. So really, really good card as well, and a really good anthem and or finisher, right? Now, we do also have some cards that are a bit worse actually, because they don't make zombies, so they don't synergize with On Wings of Gold nearly as well. They do synergize somewhat because they do still get the +1/+1 and flying, but they don't get +2/+2 because they aren't zombies. So the first of these cards is the Riverman that checks at the end step. If a player discards a turn, discarded a card this turn, you create a 1/1 black bird that can't block. This is created to me pretty similar. Whenever one more cards leave your graveyard, you create a 1/1 black bat with flying. Spirit Can is also somewhat similar. It's actually just kind of bad, to be honest, but it is a card that you can run in the deck if you want to. I'm considering cutting it because I don't feel like I've needed this yet. It's basically a 3-mana white enchantment that says whenever a player discards a card, you may pay 1 white mana, and then you can create a 1/1 white spirit with flying. So it's useful, but it's not all that great. Then we have Defiled Crypt and or Cadaver Lab, and basically the one that's really important here is Defiled Crypt. It says whenever one or more cards leave your graveyard, you create a 2/2 black horror enchantment creature token. This ability triggers only once each turn, so also really good. It doesn't come in tapped either, so that's nice. Then we have Skeleton Crew, which is also a really good creature in this deck. It has each other creature you control that's a skeleton or pirate, it gets +1/+1. And it also has whenever one or more creature cards leaves your graveyard, create a 2/2 black skeleton pirate creature token. So really, really good. It can also pay 6 mana to return this card from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. So overall, there are some pretty good abilities here. I think there are around 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 of these in total. And again, you run tutors in this deck, so you can find them if you want to, if you didn't draw into them. So with these cards on the battlefield, if you just have like 2 of these on the battlefield, it gets out of hand really, really quick. And again, if your opponents decide, okay, I'm going to destroy your, let's just say, Dying to Serve, you can exile your Neva in response, make a zombie token because it does that on discard, and then you can return Dying to Serve from your graveyard to your hand. Assuming that it is one of the things that are either a creature or an enchantment. Of course, you can do this with Cryptcaller Chariot, Desecrated Tomb, but all the other ones are like good to go. You can return those to your hand if you want to. So really, really good cards in this deck as well, and it's through these cards that you will win most often. I do also have stuff that will like make it possible to win otherwise. If one of your opponents is running a lot of flying stuff, there are ways to get around that. So yeah. So I've mentioned a couple of times already how I run a lot of tutors in this deck as well, and that is mainly because you want to find your Astral Slide, of course, because the deck doesn't work all that well without Astral Slide or Astral Drift, I suppose. But tutors are also known to be somewhat expensive, so I found a lot of like cheaper tutors that are actually like pretty damn good. I'll just go over them here. First of all is Cynical Loner. It's 2 mana free, 1 human survivor, and it can be blocked by glimmers, which is not important whatsoever. It has survival, which means at the beginning of your second main phase, if Cynical Loner is tapped, you may search your library for a card and then put it into your graveyard, then shuffle. Now, putting it into your graveyard is pretty bad. Let's just say you like get to attack turn 3 when Cynical Loner has come out. Because like you're playing against 3 opponents, there is a good chance that one of them won't block your free one, Cynical Loner, because like then they'll probably lose their commander or another important piece or something like that. Maybe they don't even have a creature. There's always one guy who doesn't have a block on turn 3, right? So you attack with Cynical Loner, Astral Slide goes into your graveyard, and then on turn 4, you play Never and return the Astral Slide from the graveyard to your hand. Really, really nice, and it just means that you can find tutors that put stuff into the graveyard as well. Another card that does this is Final Parting. It's 5 mana for a sorcery, and you search your library for 2 cards, put one into your hand and the other into your graveyard, then shuffle. Really nice as well. You can find, for example, something like On Wings of Gold as well with this, or a cycling card if you need that. And then we have Light Dirge. It has Spree, so you can choose one or more additional costs. It costs 2 mana normally, but if you want to actually do something with this card, you have to play it for +1, search your library for a card, put into your graveyard, then shuffle, so that's 3 mana for a tutor. Or you can play 2 additional mana and return up to 2 creature cards with total mana value 4 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield, which I don't think has ever been used for me, but it can be something if you really need it. The next card that I want to mention here is Enduring Ideal. This is a 7 mana tutor, and it's pretty special actually. It's probably the most expensive card in the deck as of right now. It's a sorcery that says search your library for an enchantment card, put it onto the battlefield, and then shuffle your library. This is pretty damn good, but the one downside with Enduring Ideal, or upside, depending on how you look at it, is that it has Epic. For the rest of the game, you can't play spells, which is pretty bad, of course. At the beginning of your upkeep, copy this spell, except for its Epic ability. So this basically just means you tutor for an enchantment card and put it onto the battlefield each turn, but you can't play spells anymore. Of course, you can still cycle your cards because you're not playing them. You are, in fact, just activating the ability of the card. So you can still cycle cards, but you can't play spells anymore, which means that if your Never gets removed or something like that, you're screwed because you're not going to win the game at that point unless you already have a really, really good board state. Pray and hope that doesn't happen, but Enduring Ideal, really, really funny card. Would recommend it. It has won me 1 game, I think. It has also like lost me a game, but yeah, pretty cool card. Then we have Moonblessed Cleric. It's a 3 mana 3/2. Damn. And when it enters the battlefield, you may search your library for an enchantment card, reveal it, put that card on the top of your library. Then you have the Diabolic Tutor, 4 mana, you find a card, put it into your hand, shuffle your library. Illicit Shipment, 5 mana, it has casualty 3, so you can sacrifice a creature and copy the spell if its power is 3 or greater. Then you search your library for a card, put it into your hand, and shuffle. And again, if you have a creature with power 3 or greater, like let's just say Cynical Loner or something along those lines, or you played a cycling creature for some reason, I don't know why you do that, but if you did, you can copy this spell if you want to. But yeah, these are like all of the cheap tools I could find, and this is also a place where you could upgrade the deck a lot, because there are a lot more like better tutors, but those get pretty pricey pretty damn fast. But these tutors are all completely fine and work very well in the deck. Now, another part of the deck that's also very flexible like the tutors is the cycling cards. I do however have cards that I want to like recommend to you guys that are like pretty good in terms of the cycling abilities. First of all is Flourishing Fox, which I already mentioned. Cards with cycling 1 in general are just really, really good. We also have Drenith Healer, which you can actually play if you need life. You can just like play this and cycle a bunch of cards, but it also has cycling 1, which is nice. We have Valiant Rescuer, which works a lot like a card like Dying to Serve. It has whenever you cycle another card for the first time each turn, you create a 1/1 right human soldier creature token, which can also be really good. It has cycling 2 though, so that's pretty bad. We have Gem-Palm Polluter, which has cycling 2 and it's only black mana, but it has a very special ability that says when you cycle Gem-Palm Polluter, you may have target player lose 1 life for each zombie in play. This doesn't just count your tokens, like your zombies, so which you of course will have a lot of, but if an opponent is playing a zombie deck as well, this can just like completely win the game for you. So really, really good card as well. Then you have Street Wraith, which has cycling pay 2 life, so this doesn't actually cost mana, which is really, really nice, because in this case mana requirements aren't nearly as big of a problem. We have Horror of the Broken Land, cycling for 1 black mana. Cast Out, which is one of the few enchantments with cycling. It can function as a removal spell if you really, really need it, but more importantly, it has cycling for 1 white mana. We have Winged Shepherd, also cycling for 1 white mana. Lurching Rod Beast, cycling for 1 black mana. Imposing Vantasaur, cycling for 1 mana. Eagles of the North is actually a card that I played once and it actually won me the game. It gives all of your creatures +1/+0 and first strike on the end of turn, which is really good in the token deck, of course. It's a bit expensive though, but more importantly, it has plain cycling, which basically means that you still discard the card and it goes into your graveyard, but instead of drawing a card like you normally would with cycling, you find a plains and put it into your hand and then shuffle your library. In this you have a Troll of Casa Doom, which you never want to play, but it has Swarm Cycling for 1 as well, which is also pretty good. And of course, these Swarm Cycling, Clean Cycling, Basic Land Cycling, stuff like that also work with Astro Slide and Astro Drift, because it's still a cycling ability. That also means that you can run stuff like lands that have cycling abilities as well if you really want to. So like that's an option as well, although you can't recur those with your commander. So it's not nearly as good, but you can still do it if you really want to. And of course, I don't just run these cycling cards, I have a couple of other cycling cards as well in the deck. But like honestly, they aren't that great. It's mostly just cards that have cycling for 2 mana, which like it's good to get you going, but you ideally want to have cards that cost cycling 1, because like the difference between playing 4 mana each turn cycle and playing 8 mana each turn cycle is like honestly pretty big, especially when you're like starting up. So if you can get a card with cycling 1 in your hand, that's really nice. So try going for that first of all. But other than that, just use cycling cards you have in bulk. I have a couple of them as well, even like just a 2 mana plain cycling. I have like 3 of those in the deck. So just like use whatever cycling you have lying around. But of course, the cheaper the better. If they have secondary effects, that's cool. So yeah, just find something that's cool. Now, with that said, we've actually gone over like all the like mandatory cards in the deck. However, I do quickly want to get over some things as well. Now, you do need a lot of mana in this deck, so I run a lot of like mana rocks as well in the deck. I run Soul Ring, Prismatic Lens, Mind Stone, Marble Diamond, Charcoal Diamond, Talisman of Hierarchy, also Signet, Filiwar Stone, and Arcane Signet. And these are all in the deck just to like have more mana, so you can actually cycle your cards, which is pretty important. Now, I'm not sure how good they actually are in the deck. I know that Soul Ring is, of course, really good in the deck, because it's a busted card. No surprise there. But the other cards I'm not actually like quite sure of if I want to run them, especially cards like Also of Signet, because like normally I really like Also of Signet, but it kind of sucks if you, for example, want to cycle stuff that doesn't cost 2 mana. You need to use a mana already to like use Also of Signet, so like it doesn't really make sense. Also of Signet. So like there are some cards here that I would take with a bit of a grain of salt. I'm kind of considering trying to like cut them and see how the deck works without them. But yeah, we'll see. These cards for now are pretty good. In addition to these mana rocks, I have some other cards that I'm also considering cutting as well. These are like basically backup commanders with like, it's like Neva, but like backup, right? So we have Restoration Gearsmith, which returns an artifact or creature from your graveyard to your hand. Violent Tumor, which... Oh, that's a tutor. This is in the wrong package. Don't mind me, this is another tutor. Oh, whoops. Then we have Entomber Exarch, which is also just like return a creature from your graveyard to your hand. And we have Cadaver Imp, which returns a creature from your graveyard to your hand as well. So like these cards are good as well, don't get me wrong, but I'm not sure if they like actually belong in the deck, because I haven't really had a need for them. The only time where I actually think this would be necessary is if for some reason your commander gets like enchanted, which just should not happen like at all, and like it's a very niche case, and I'm not sure it's right to dedicate 3 whole slots for this. So these might get cut as well. But other than these like more like iffy cards, I also have some cards that didn't really fit in the specific category that I wanted to talk about really quickly. The first card is Hour of Reckoning, which is this deck's only board wipe. It costs 4 mana and 3 white mana, but it also has Convoke, so probably a lot less. And it says destroy all non-token creatures. Of course, you can exile your commander or any other like relevant creatures you want to in response to this, so you won't lose any of your creatures, and then you can just do a complete one-sided board wipe, assuming that your opponents don't use token creatures. If they do, this doesn't really do all that much. But still, it's a pretty damn nice card, and it can get around a lot of different strategies and like help you get your zombies in to like swing for lethal damage. So really nice card. Another way we have to win the game theoretically is Fallen Ideal. It is an enchantment aura that has enchanted creature has flying, and sacrifice a creature. This creature gets +2/+1 until end of turn. So really weird card, to be honest, right? It's basically just an alternative win con. If an opponent, for example, gets infinite life or something like that, you can cast Fallen Ideal and swing at them in the air for commander damage. So you can equip this to your Neva, and this is also where like the menace ability is somewhat useful, because a flying menace blocker is somewhat hard to block. Of course, it will be late game, so maybe they have enough flying blockers, but maybe they don't. Then you can just get in for lethal damage. So pretty cool tech card as well. Then we have Fang Fearless. I'm not gonna pronounce that. No. It's a 3 mana human warrior, and whenever one or more cards leave your graveyard, you draw a card and lose 1 life. This ability triggers only once each turn. Anyways, that was like the main deck, and then the deck I've been playing with for the last couple of like weeks, right? So I wanted to go over some potential upgrades for this deck first of all. So the first couple of cards that I want to mention are cards that I've actually recently acquired myself and I'm considering putting into the deck. Now the first one is Flesh Eater Imp. And Flesh Eater Imp is pretty similar to Fallen Ideal, where it's a tech card that's only really good if an opponent gets infinite life or like near infinite life, right? It's basically a flying creature with infect, and you can sacrifice a creature and give it a +1/+1 until end of turn. And this just means that like if an opponent has infinite life, you just fly over their faces and hit them for lethal damage either way, because it's infect, right? So it's a tech card here as well. Now I know I mentioned that I didn't really want any more of those like backup commanders in the deck, but I have kind of fallen in love with Gravedigger and Graveshifter as well. Gravedigger is like the OG, and it's basically just when you enter the battlefield, you may return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand, and Graveshifter is the same except it's the changeling. So like, yeah, pretty cool. Really like these two cards as well. Yeah, not really much to say about that. I really like the artwork as well. At least on the new, I didn't really fuck with like the old Graveshifter artwork. I'm gonna just be real with you guys. I like the idea of it, but I didn't like the style. You know, it's just personal opinion. The artwork is good. I just didn't like it. But the new Graveshifter art is like really good. I love it. It's the one from Long Wind Eclipsed, as I have put up on screen. Another card that's good in the deck that is also like another build path you can go is Campbell Profiteering Mayor. It's a 3-mana human advisor with a 2/4 stat land, and it says whenever one of the tokens enters the battlefield under your opponent's control, for each of them create a tapped token that's a copy of it. This ability triggers only once each turn. Now this is already a pretty good ability because it gives you more tokens that you can swing with, right, and potentially tokens with specific abilities. But it also says whenever one or more tokens enters the battlefield under your control, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. This is also pretty good, especially if you want to take the deck in a more aristocrats-like direction, which you can definitely do. Fun fact, I recently spelled like water on my Campbell, which is like pretty ass. Like, it was probably like the most expensive card in the deck, and now it's ruined. It's not ruined though. It just has like a bulge, I suppose. So that's pretty sad, but it is what it is, right? Other cards that I've considered adding to the deck, or that you can add to the deck, are stuff like Bone Miser. Now, Bone Miser is another card like Dying to Serve that says whenever you discard a creature card, create a 2/2 black zombie token, and then whenever you discard a land, you add 2 black mana. Whenever you discard a non-creature, non-land card, you draw a card. So it's a pretty good card, but it's not really like all that much better in this deck, and it costs like $20 or something like that. So like, I don't know, guys, I don't feel like it's worth buying for the deck. You don't really need it, but it is a potential card that you can add to the deck if you really want to. Other than that, I've been considering adding some more Anthem effects to the deck, which could be really good as well. Don't know if it's actually worth adding Anthem effects, but I just feel like Dying to Serve has been like really good recently. So I don't know, man. It just seems like it'd be a good idea to have more Anthem effects that gives like some sort of unblockable vibes to them, right? Other than that, I've also been considering stuff like Lich's Mastery, which just seems like it would be really good with Enduring Ideal. If you don't know what Lich's Mastery does, it's a 6-mana enchantment that has hexproof. You can't lose the game. Whenever you gain life, draw that many cards. Whenever you lose life, for each 1 life lost, exile a permanent control or a card from your hand or graveyard. And then when Lich's Mastery leaves the battlefield, you lose the game. It's a pretty good card, and I feel like it just works really well in this deck, especially with Enduring Ideal, as I mentioned earlier. If you're like late game or someone is about to win, you can just pop down a Lich's Mastery with your Enduring Ideal, and you can stall out the game for a bit longer and hopefully get to do something. So I've been considering actually getting this card for my own collection, and right now it's actually pretty cheap. It's a bit cheaper than I expected. I can see on Squarefall it's around $0.66, so not all that expensive actually. That's a potential upgrade that I might actually go out and get. If I can find it. But yeah, those are just some of the upgrades that I've thought about. You can, of course, take this in many different directions. I've already mentioned aristocrats, but I can't really think of anything else right now. There's probably a lot of stuff you can do. And again, very flexible. A lot of the cards in this deck can be replaced with other cards if you want to, and upgrade it. Again, if you want to upgrade something, it's probably going to be the land base. I just run like basic lands, a couple of the cycling lands, because if I like need more discard, as well as like some pretty steep tutors and some pretty bulk what I call like cycling abilities. So like those are like the main places you can upgrade the deck. But yeah, other than that, like fiddle with like the amount of like token generation and stuff like that, fiddle with some of the tutors. There are a lot of different things you can do with this deck, to be honest, if you want to. But again, the deck list is down in the description if you want to. Yeah, with that said, I think that's pretty much it for the video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Remember to leave a comment, like, and subscribe. That was the wrong order, I think, but it doesn't really matter all that much. Just as long as you do all 3, would be much appreciated. And yeah, Thanks so much for watching. I hope to see you guys in my next video, and peace.